Awesome, cool. So let's talk about how like B2B go-to-market is changing, and that's going to essentially underlie a lot of the things I'm going to talk about in terms of AI and marketing, especially content marketing. So this is let's sort of like layer on a go-to-market motion. So bare minimum basics is like simple outbound, right? So you're reaching out to your prospects, you have a BDR or someone on the sales team, reaching out via email, via LinkedIn DMs, via cold calling, perhaps using tools like Apollo, and just trying your best. You have a lead list and you're kind of working off of that. Problem is, each one of these prospects receives a ton of email. I, as the founder and CEO of like a 11-person company, receive like 50 cold inbounds in my inbox every single morning when I wake up. It's just a nightmare to go through. So not surprisingly, you don't get a lot of conversion from that just because it blends in with a lot of other stuff. So let's figure out how to make this better. So people are starting to email people only based on triggers. You're talking about specific problems, you're sharing resources, and there are tools like Clay and now Persona to help you actually identify when to reach out to people. Like, how do you personalize these emails, make it something that they're more likely to respond to, which is amazing. And so I think this works great on the sales side. So I think the next thing we need to think about is like, okay, that's AI for the sales side. How does this work in conjunction with marketing? And so let's layer on some marketing on top of this, like something that's really easy to do, though expensive, is to add some paid on top, right? So you have a couple of different options over here. So you can do demand generation. So this is things like display ads on platforms like LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, Google, etc. Sponsorships as well. And so this is just telling the world like, hey, we exist, and that goes directly to your prospects over here. And then on the other side, you have paid search. This is demand capture, right? So when people actually have a problem, when they have a question, they're going and searching for a solution today on Google, future, some combination of Google or Perplexity or whatever comes up, but they're searching for some sort of solution. You drop in some paid there, capture that high intent and introduce them to your website. So you get more people to your website. And so you get more people coming to you. This is great. Problem is, ad spend is incredibly expensive. A lot of companies have pulled back. It's just very inefficient. You're just kind of like reaching out to everybody. And most companies today stop here. This is kind of what they do. And I think this is incredibly limiting in terms of how you can actually build a go-to-market flywheel. And that's what I want to talk about today. So in addition to just ads, which is kind of easy, it's like you spend money, get in front of people, how do you layer on organic? And I think organic is very powerful. You're able to tell your story, you're able to educate your customers, you're able to connect with them. In conjunction with paid, or as a substitute to paid, you can start doing organic, where you're not just telling people to buy, but you're actually helping people who are further away from the end of the funnel, like more top of funnel, middle of the funnel, and helping them understand how do they solve their problems, what are customer stories, what's educational content that they can consume and like build a relationship with your brand. You can do the same thing on SEO as well, in terms of paid, instead of paid search. And in all fairness, a lot of people are blind to ads. They just skip the ads and go to the organic results. You can actually start showing up there as well. And so, and this is kind of like where platforms like Letterdrop come in to help companies with this sort of organic stuff on both the demand generation as well as on the demand creation side. And so now you get even more people to your site and possibly like higher chance of conversion because you've been engaging with them organically. They want to engage with you. It's not like you inserted an ad in front of them. That's the only reason why that they're engaging with you. So great, you have paid, you have organic, you've layered on marketing, you're still doing your outbound sales, you're getting more traffic to your website. The next thing you can do is actually figure out how do we put a face in terms of it? How do we like take that content? How do we make our sellers the face of that content? And that's where social selling comes in. And so thought leadership, being able to have your sellers, your execs, your founders essentially show up and be the face of the company so that people are actually consuming this information from them as opposed to a nameless entity is very important as well, because people at the end of the day buy from people. And so if you're going to be reaching out to somebody and you're going to be selling to them, it's also useful for your company to have a face and for it to have a brand and for people to be for people to recognize it. And so that's kind of where social selling kind of fits into the mix. And so you can start to see how the marketing is starting to blend in with the sales. And I think Rush talked about intent data. Like, you have content is essentially you putting out lures into the world for you to capture intent data, first party intent data, right? So when you put more stuff out into the world, more people can engage with it. And when they're engaging with it, what they're essentially telling you is like, hey, I'm interested in these types of problems. I'm possibly in market to even buy something. You can capture that stuff and actually give that back to your sellers, essentially. And so there's lots of tooling out there like Clearbit and 6 Sense and all these types of ABM type platforms. There's a whole bunch of tools out there that you can use to collect that intent data. Platforms like us, like at Letterdrop, we integrate with those platforms to pull out that data and actually use that to inform your marketing as well. And so finally, what is the result of having all of these elements in place is like you're reaching out to fewer people instead of all of these people. You're reaching out to a much more targeted audience of people who are in market. Your conversion rate on your cold outreach goes up. You are creating more content that's actually tied to revenue, stuff that's actually historically driven pipeline. And so you can create more of it. And you can defend and optimize the sort of like SEO content that's been historically working, as opposed to you kind of like flying blind and creating content because you feel like it. And you can also serve better ads for the demand gen team. So you can actually focus your ad spend on the folks who are closer to being ready to buy, as opposed to distributing your ad budget to a whole bunch of people who are simply not in market and also not really understanding like what they care about. And so what this creates is essentially a flywheel of sorts, where you're essentially compounding the results of marketing and sales together to actually deliver outsized results. And so this is very powerful. This is the only way to truly scale a go-to-market motion with like very coordinated sales and marketing orchestration, right? So both of these teams need to be working well together, and they need to be understanding how to take the sort of like interest that marketing is creating and how to actually convert it with sales and then turn that back into data for marketing to operate on again. So I just wanted to start with this because this is actually the underlying principle of why and how you should be using AI in marketing.